What's going on, guys? I'm Jason. Today I'm going to show you how to make oxtail that is so tender it falls off the bone.
Very tender. I think it's already fallen off the bone.
If you're new to the channel, welcome. I like making Asian recipes and this is one of my specialties. Oxtail is not a cheap cut of meat. It's very high in gelatin and usually it's cooked for very long periods of time to make sure that the meat is very tender. So it's either stewed, slow cooked, pressure cooked, or braised. Today I'll be braising the oxtail, and this is a dish that I like to make for special occasions for family and friends. I made this dish for my sister for Thanksgiving, and she's asked me multiple times for the recipe. So Julie Jejet, this one's for you. To get started with our braised oxtail, I'm using 2 pounds of oxtail. If you were to buy this at the store, it would look red like this. For this recipe, you can cook it straight out of the package, but because I had the time, I decided to soak my oxtail in water for about an hour to get rid of any bone dust or blood. I'll be using 4 ounces of rock sugar. You can also replace this with half a cup of sugar, 2 star anise, 1 cinnamon stick, 1 teaspoon of fennel, 1 onion cut in half, 1 head of garlic cut in half, and 3 slices of ginger. I'm also using 1/8 cup of Shaoxing rice wine, 1/4 cup of light soy sauce, and I was supposed to use 1/8 cup of dark soy sauce, but I accidentally doubled it and I used 1/4 cup of dark soy sauce instead. So visually, my oxtail turned out a lot darker than it normally does, but it still tasted exactly the same since dark soy sauce is more for color than it is for taste. For some heat, I'm using a teaspoon of gochujang. Let's start cooking. I'm using my Staub Dutch oven. I got my Dutch oven warmed up on the stove and then I added in some oil and half of my rock sugar. We're going to melt the rock sugar and make a caramel to coat our oxtail. Caramelizing some of the rock sugar makes the dish a lot richer in flavor. Be sure to coat all the sides of the oxtail and give it some time to brown. Once the oxtail is fully coated and browned, I add in my sauce mixture. In goes the other half of my rock sugar, my cinnamon stick and star anise, fennel, onions, garlic, and ginger. We'll add in our gochujang and top it off with 3 cups of water. Give it a mix and make sure everything is submerged. Bring it to a boil, put on the lid, and then lower the heat to medium-low. If you're only making oxtail, just let the pot do its thing for 3 hours and then you're ready to serve. I would mix it once every hour or so, but that's pretty much it. I personally like to add carrots, potatoes, or daikon. It just really depends what I have on hand. So what I do is I let the oxtail simmer on the stove for 2.5 hours, and then for the last 30 minutes, I add in my hearty vegetables. While the oxtail is on the stove, I'll prepare 2 large carrots and 2 potatoes. I'll have them washed, then peeled. I want to cut the potatoes and carrots into about 1-inch pieces so they can hold up when it cooks.
It's very tender. I think it's already fallen off the bone.
That piece did fall off the bone.
Yeah.
Now that our oxtail has been simmering for 2.5 hours, we'll add in our veggies. I'm going to lift up the oxtail carefully so they don't break apart. Because most of the water has reduced, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of water, then put the lid back on. After 30 minutes, you can take it off the stove and serve. Because there's a lot of spices in the sauce, I like to take out all the oxtail, carrots, and potatoes first. Then pour the sauce through a strainer to get rid of all the bits of garlic skin, star anise, cinnamon, and other stuff. You can pour the sauce over the dish and on top of your rice. Finally, sprinkle some sliced green onions and voila, you have yourself some tender, fall off the bone, braised oxtail. The oxtail is sweet, salty, and has a little bit of heat. This is a perfect dish to eat with rice. The carrots add a different kind of sweetness and texture. The potatoes soak up a lot of the flavor from the sauce. Angie likes adding daikon because it has a little bit of bitterness that balances the sweetness and almost cleanses the palate. As I mentioned earlier, I accidentally doubled the amount of dark soy sauce for this recipe. I didn't realize it until I took off the lid and I saw that the meat was a lot darker than it should be. If you follow the recipe down below, this is what it should look like. If you have any chicken stock, definitely use that instead of water if you want to amp up the flavor even more. I just didn't have any on hand. You can also use this recipe for different cuts of beef that you want to braise. I've done this with short ribs before and it turned out delicious. Just know that because short ribs don't have as much gelatin as oxtail, the sauce won't be as thick. If you like this video, go ahead and tap the like button down below. It really helps with the channel. Also subscribe if you want to see more Asian recipes. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.